Hi, it's Steve Cochran, and this is Live from My Office. Time after time, the numbers show it to be true. The most popular podcast in my office is Live from My Office. Thank you for your support, and thank you to David Hochberg and Team Hochberg at 855-56-DAVID or 56david.com. Title sponsors of Live from My Office. I always encourage you to check out the show notes for everything about the episode that you're about to hear, whatever episode you're listening to, wherever you listen. Check those out for details. Drop me a line, an email anytime at thecochronshow@gmail.com. There's social media links in those show notes as well. And, of course, subscribe, rate, and review, and help someone who doesn't know how to download a podcast, how to download and subscribe it, because it's more and more a part of our lives every day. And I do, sincerely. I thank you for listening. Well, I hope you had a great Easter holiday. You know, for many of us who go to church, it was the first time back in church in a long time. And, you know, regardless of your faith or your feelings about religion, Easter is a time every spring that kind of makes most people feel some hope. And it's harder this year. Obviously, we're still dealing with COVID. Inflation's awful. Prices on everything. And, of course, Vladimir Putin, the nuked up nut, most dangerous nut in the world. We got plenty to worry about. So there is a lot of bad news. But there's good news out there. And it's one of those times that I think it's really important, if you can, stop down and count your blessings. There's a little baby in Chicago, a toddler named Takira, Takyra. Takira's just a couple of years old. And in 2020, just before Takira was turning 1, her mom got on Facebook and was begging to find a match to save her daughter's life. Her daughter had a rare and awful condition called biliary atresia, a deadly disease in infancy. And it's more likely in kids with African-American or Asian American heritage. It could be very painful. A man responded, underwent surgery to give a portion of his liver to Takira. And that little squirt is hitting every milestone and more. And doctors couldn't be more thrilled that this hero stepped up to save that little girl's life, but she's doing great. That's a good news story. There was a good news story that broke over Easter weekend as well about a man named Connor Jack Oswald, was missing for 3 years. A young man with autism who disappeared from his home. 3 years later, he was found homeless, and police took it upon themselves. They had seen him regularly, and they wanted him to warm up on a very cold night. And through a series of circumstances, they were able to reunite Connor Jack Oswald with his family 3 years later. Now, if you're spiritual, those types of stories, maybe they're miracles, or maybe they're just good news, but it's not all bad news out there. So when you get up in the morning and you're feeling bad about the world we live in, say a prayer for the people of Ukraine if you're so inclined, or at least hope that they are going to get through this for the greater good of all of us. And just look for those good news stories. As a matter of fact, one from me. So our family went to church together on Sunday, and as I saw my son with my grandson, Isaac, Ross had Isaac, just completely conked out asleep on his shoulder. And I immediately flashed back to when that picture was Ross sleeping on my shoulder. Now, that would be awkward and somewhat painful for me now that he's 31. But it was a beautiful thing. And I got a little emotional about it, just seeing it, because I could look down the aisle of seats we're sitting in and realized how blessed and lucky I am. And it's just those small things that sometimes in a world of bad news, we forget to stop down, take a look at, and be thankful for all the good that we have in our lives. So I hope that helps on some level. In the meantime, I'm glad you're here. One of my favorite people, Paul Coyte, is back. Paul Coyte and I will have a somewhat lengthy but highly entertaining discussion on all things. Things in the world in London, things in the world here, and all things in between. And one thing you may enjoy is Paul will spend a good portion of this episode correcting my mistakes. So stand by for Paul Coyte next. This is Live from My Office. A word, if you will, about David Hochberg and Team Hochberg. Look, it's no secret that the Fed is raising rates again, and then again after that, and maybe even a third again. If that happens a third time, or a second time, or a first time, what's the upshot for you? Waiting's not your friend. If you need a mortgage on a home, if you need to refi your home, don't wait. Don't wait. And by the way, don't just call anybody you hear about or somebody who sends you something in snail mail or spams your email with, or, just hit you while you're scrolling online. The Fed has said because so much money was thrown into the money supply, which helped create inflation in 2020 and beyond, now they're trying to balance it all off. And in balancing it all off, if you say, well, I know we're going to be buying a house, but I'd like to figure out a way to do it maybe in the fall, you're going to pay more money. And the good news is when you originate a mortgage with Team Hochberg, they're going to let you know shortly thereafter, I'm talking about a matter of months, when you can come in and refi if the rates drop. And they will. What goes up comes down. All right, my sermon is complete. Thank you, Team Hochberg, for supporting Live from my office. And thank you for being there, because even in times of rising rates, these are the guys to go with. Team Hochberg, David Hochberg, 855-56-DAVID or 56david.com. Tune into Home Sweet Home Chicago, hosted by David. Saturdays after House March at 10 on WGN. And remember, Homeside Financial is an equal housing lender, NMLS number 1124061. It is one of life's greatest pleasures to say that my friend Paul Coyte is joining us now on Live from my office. Hi, buddy.
Hi, Steve. How are you?
I am just dandy. What's the word? Now, dandy?
Oh.
Dandy is a terrible word to use in your country because it would mean that not a terrible word, but it would mean that I'm gay, right? Doesn't dandy mean gay?
No, not really. I mean, a dandy it's like Beau Brummel was a dandy. I mean, you go back many hundreds of years, someone that dresses very fine, is not afraid to maybe wear a pink cravat with an open shirt and maybe in a flannel suit and maybe a hat slightly tipped to one side. And doesn't matter what sexual persuasion you are, if you can wear it like that with style, my friend, you would be a dandy. All right. That's what you would be.
All right. And by the way, if I were gay, I'd be proud to be gay. So I don't want to, give people the wrong idea.
Absolutely right.
And dandy, the way you described it, describes my wardrobe completely, don't you think?
Well, yes, I do. I think right down to the socks, matching socks and belt set and underpants. It's almost dressing formally with a hint of whimsy. And I don't even know what that means. But I think that's what dandy is.
Wasn't that a band I was in, Hint of Whimsy?
Yes. Yeah, that was it. I was the bass player in that. Don't you remember? I was the third bass player. I didn't stay very long. I just wasn't dandy enough. That was it. Although I did form the Dandy Warhols pretty soon after that, and then they threw me out too. But that's another story.
It's a total other story. All right, let's go through your various credits because they're numerous. People can hear you on TalkSport 2, a national...
No, on TalkSport.
Oh, it's just called TalkSport?
Yeah. They threw me off 2 and put me on the main one, but cut my hours. So I don't know whether that works. The fact that I was on the secondary channel for 4 hours and then to put me on the main one for 1 hour. So I guess that pretty much evens out, doesn't it?
I think the way you've rationalized that makes complete sense. Yes. And that's every morning at 5 a.m. London time, which would be, is that 11 or midnight in Chicago?
I think that would be 11 at night. See, the thing is, the reason they put me on at 5 a.m. is because I go down very well with people in the Middle East. It's always been my target audience. So it's basically a good time for people in the Middle East to enjoy me talking about sport and other nonsense. So that's the reason they put me on there. Nothing to do with it being a bad time in London. That's all I can say.
Okay, good. Now, you're also on TV daily. You do sports updates, and it's very funny and very entertaining in the morning on a national network called GBTV. Explain what that is.
It's GB News, that one. Your researcher
I'm wrong all over, aren't I? GB News. Okay.
Your researcher has been failing me for quite some years. GB News which is the national network, which you can actually see in the States if you download the app.
Yep.
GB News, you'd see me at around 7:20 a.m., which is probably more palatable to people in this country. But people in the Middle East are still happy with that time because it's like evening time. But in the States over there, I'm afraid it's not a good time unless you're a heck of a night owl. It'll be about 20 past 1 in Chicago. And obviously, you can please work out your own time difference wherever you are in the United States to that. But that's on there.
And the other piece of news, which is it was actually very big news in country, in the UK, in London specifically, is you're back on the pitch with your favorite football club, the Tottenham Hotspurs, the Spurs. So,
Tottenham Hotspur, not Tottenham Hotspurs. It's Tottenham Hotspur. Yeah.
Are we just going to call this entire segment "Correcting Steve"?
Yeah. It's welcome. It's like it's the pedantic ocean between us. Is that I feel it's what we have.
So you on the pitch at halftime means you're the guy with the microphone on the field, as we call it here.
On the field of play.
On the field of play at halftime, doing interviews and various other things. Do you do a fan dance or anything like that?
I don't know what a fan dance is. What is that? What you mean, like what actually a naked thing with fans? Is that what you mean, as in fans, football fans, or fans the wave? What do you mean? What are the fans you're referring to?
You'd have giant feathers in each hand, and you would dance in a seductive way.
Because if I went to them and said, look, I'm going to do a fan dance, I'll be naked, but my private parts will be covered in fans, they would then get people from the crowd to stand in front of me, and quite frankly, I don't think that's going to work, and I don't think that would go down too well. So the fan dance is out, but apart from doing it though, it's very lovely. The only problem there, and this is not a humble brag because I do hate. Well, actually, I hate a humble brag. I love to hear other humble brags. You know, it's like, oh, how embarrassing when I slipped over and it was right in front of the Queen as I was being invested to become a knight. You know, it's something like that. It's all that nonsense. But the thing is, what they do have at the Tottenham Hotspur Stadium is the biggest screens probably in the world, and they're HD. And I got to tell you, in HD, I ain't great, Steve. I've got to be honest. My hands, I got lovely hands.
Stop it.
In front of HD are great, but they're big screens, huge screens.
Yeah, no, listen, I get that. On a much smaller screen, but I did work here with the Chicago Blackhawks hockey team. And when my head would appear on the Jumbotron, the jumbo screen, children would run screaming, and the people at NASA would be alerted that a meteor might be headed for Earth.
See, this is where things went wrong, is that the screen the Blackhawks would have been perfect for my small, tiny head, and the Tottenham Hotspur screens would have been great. So it all would have worked out fine, but we've just got it mixed up a little bit. I mean, I like a little pin thing. Well, you know what I'm like.
I understand.
I understand.
Now, this is an exciting time for Premier League football / soccer because you're coming down to the end of the season, and it looks like your football club, Tottenham, it looks like you are in the driver's seat to finish in the top 4, which qualifies you for something else called the Champions League next year.
Correct.
Which
Absolutely
is a
correct.
very big deal. And eventually, one of these years, you're going to win the whole darn thing, aren't you?
Well, we got to the final in 2019, as you know, and got beaten by Liverpool Football Club. They just seem to be winning everything at the moment, which is very, very disappointing. And so we've seen the promised land, but it seems a little far away. It's been a bit of an up and down, topsy-turvy season, but it seems to be going somewhere. So I'm okay there. And also the other big news is the winner of the US Open, Emma Raducanu, who's like 19 years old. Was seen today. There's a very big deal for fans of Tottenham Hotspur that she was seen training in a Spurs shirt, in a Tottenham jersey with Raducanu written on the back. So we're very happy about that. And I was very close to Kenneth Branagh again on Saturday. So he was on the same row as me, whereas he was watching the game and he even had a Spurs jacket on. I mean, he absolutely loves the club. And he really is. I mean, he's a diehard fan. Whereas I spent most of the game looking at him, see if he could recognize me. He was watching the game, and I couldn't catch his eye. So all I'm doing, so Joe, my son, is sitting there, and he's going, "Dad, did you see that?" And I went, "No. Too busy trying to look at Kenneth Branagh, get Kenneth Branagh to recognize me." And unfortunately, Branagh did not see me, although he probably did because he's a fine actor and very smart man. So I think he was just acting to look as if he was looking at Spurs, whereas really he was obviously intimidated by my acting chops. So he looked elsewhere.
Clearly he's aware of you, as he should be. But in addition to that, he's a phenomenal director. And I have said to you, you should be in Kenneth Branagh's next movie because of your tie with the Spurs.
I think so.
And the other thing is, you would be perfect for America's favorite soccer/football show, starring Jason Sudeikis, which is no big deal over there. But you should be the guy on there as well.
Okay, well, so I have a go, but there's the Kenneth Branagh is from Belfast, and he won an Oscar for the movie Belfast. So if you don't mind, this may be the time for us to do a little Northern Ireland Belfast language. Are you happy to do that?
Sure.
Learn a little?
Sure.
Should we happy to do that?
Yeah, absolutely. But put me through my paces.
Okay, so firstly, the letter is, what we're going to do is say a phrase, how now, brown cow, which was a phrase that was used by linguists and to teach English accents, but I will teach you that in Northern Ireland in a Belfast accent. So the word, so it's how now, brown cow. Now, the way you would do this is say, hi now, Brian Kai. So that's how you do it, like that. Hi now, Brian Kai.
Hi now, Brian. Hi now, Brian Kai.
Brian Kai. Hi there. Hi now, Brian Kai.
Hi now, Brian Kai.
Brian, don't because you're going a wee bit Scottish there. You don't go, that's how now, Brian Cow would be the Scottish. How now, Brian Cow, whereas hi now, Brian Kai would be Belfast. Whereas Ken has moved away from Belfast. He's now perfect Queen's English because he's a very respected actor. But hi now, Brian Kai is our phrase.
Let me try it one more time. Hi, Brian Kai.
No, you're Brian. You don't roll your R. You're doing just Brian. Hi now, and say it as if it's a question. Hi now, Brian Kai. So that's it. It's like a question. You. Everything seems to go up at the end like that. Yeah. Sorry, what do you reckon there, Steve? Hi now, Brian Kai.
Hi now, Brian Kai.
Yeah. Oh my goodness me. Honestly, it's unbelievable. Unbelievable how you do that.
Well, you're a fine teacher. I want you to know that.
Well, I try my best.
Yes. All right. So let me go through a few news stories that are big in your country and the news stories that are big in ours. Obviously, the one we share is Ukraine. As you and I do the news, if not for the UK and the United States, I don't know what shape Ukraine would be in. They're incredibly heroic people, but you have supplied great military assistance and cash and all those other things, as have we. I worry that people here are starting to just get used to the idea of a war there. Yeah. Is it happening there too?
Yeah, there is that worry. And the thing is, it's not a surprise that the longer it goes on, the more it just becomes headlines and people seem to ignore it, and which I really don't want to happen. I think the thing that it reminds me of is the Yugoslav crisis back sort of 20, 30 years ago. We were probably looking back 30 years of when the former Yugoslavia collapsed. And the terrible things that were going on, ethnic cleansing, and it just the most awful war. And these are people that were neighbours that would live next door to each other, and it just ended up killing each other. I mean, it got resolved as much as it could, of course, eventually, but there were war trials and war crimes and some terrible things that went on. And it was only, to be honest with you, although I was in my 20s at the time, and still I thought across what was going on in the news, it was just there, it was just, and it was only probably 10 years later, whereas I started reading about it and finding out about it. And that's when you start questioning, how can this happen? And the thing about wars, and, they called World War I the war to end all wars, and that never happened. And then World War II, and the terrible things that happened there, this can never happen again. Humans are very strange things and can capable of just unimaginable evil. And the thing is, but these things, it's a phrase I used with you about something else earlier, is it's cyclical, and we continue to see it. So we can't ignore it, and something needs to be done about it. But in this day and age, what you actually do is it's a very dangerous game to be able to play, you know. And how much sanctions do you put on a country when the amount of money that's going into them with oil, etc., is in the millions and billions every year? You either do it properly or you don't do it at all, as far as I'm concerned. But something has to happen, don't you think?
Well, and you folks in London and New York, these are the two greatest world cities there are, where people from every country in the world live in London or New York. But you have a tremendous amount of super rich Russians there. What are you doing about these oligarchs?
Well, they're being sanctioned. And the biggest one is Chelsea Football Club, which is owned by Roman Abramovich. Now, this is an oligarch who is worth billions. So, to fans of the football club that have, when he came in and bought it, and you've got to question why he did that, because he wanted a footprint in the country. He wanted to, he wanted to siphon off money, or whether this is like the greatest Ozark that you've ever seen. That's up for conjecture and rumor. I mean, people are looking at it very closely now, but he bought them huge success because this was a club that was not doing that great. Invested billions into the football club, bought the best players, and they became a huge, huge success. So obviously fans of that football club, there are some that are actually straight and then go, you know, this is wrong and we can't have this. Where there's other people that live for the game and they live for the club. So what he's done, they can't see any wrong in. And they were singing, and this is the thing that really turns stomachs, is when there were sanctions going on and people were saying, you know, this guy, very, very close to Putin and always has been, and has earned a lot of money for Putin. They were singing his name at a game, and you think, this is not the right time. Yeah, you got to read the room. This is just offensive.
Right.
And there are people, and they'd be going, oh, you know, well, whatever, he's our savior, he's wonderful, or won't hit. And it's like, just read the room and see what's going on. So he's had to sell the club. But the thing is, he can't sell the club and have billions be taken out of it, because the actual club, because he owns it, is sanctioned. They closed the club shop. They wouldn't allow any tickets to be sold. The only people that could go, because the profit would go to him. So it's in the process now of being sold, and it's various American sports franchise owners that are actually looking to buy the club. There's 4 main bidders now. They're offering around £2 billion to buy Chelsea Football Club. And that money will go, where he announced would go to aid the victims of the Ukraine war. Now, what that means, I have no idea. And nobody knows exactly what that means.
Because that's where it gets weird, right? That's where it gets weird, because he sells it. He's entitled to a certain amount of assets that that he's put into the club. He's entitled to get that back. But can the British government say, yes, you're going to sell it, and no, you're not going to get the money? Or is that not happening? Yeah.
Well, the thing is they would have to go into a holding situation. They just hold on to the money. For how long, I have no idea. But we mustn't forget that he has made a huge profit on this club. So I think he bought it for a certain amount of millions, and now it's worth billions. And this is a man that really doesn't need billions. And if he truly loved the club like he said he is, like he said he did, then he could forego the money. The money could go completely elsewhere. He could give it to charity. He could do whatever with it. But this is all up in the air at the moment. But this is going on at the moment. So we're waiting to see who the new owners are going to be, because he has got to walk away.
And we don't know how much of the Chelsea money went to Putin.
Oh, correct. Yeah, absolutely right. I mean, you could draw a line and think, well, actually, is that money going towards there? I mean, there's probably not a huge profit in professional football clubs, because so much money. I mean, they're complete. The amount of money that he's put into it compared to what money's being made, it's just completely one-sided, because he just throws money in it. And that's when you think, hold on, is this laundering that's going on? Is what's going on here? Is dirty money that's just going in there? But there's not a lot of money that would come out of that club. I mean, they wouldn't be making lots of money. The only money that would be huge profit was if the club was sold, which it is. And now it's just a matter of waiting to see where the money goes.
Are you a bidder?
Am I a bidder? Yes, I am, because I thought, being a Spurs fan, I would buy them and then run them into the ground. I'm not being So we'll see what happens. When you said, am I bitter, I thought you meant, am I bitter? Yes, I'm bitter.
Well,
I'm a bitter.
Yeah,
I'm a bitter is what I am.
That's completely a separate conversation. All right, let's move on to France, where the presidential elections are upcoming. And who do you have in this horse race in France? Because honestly, the French people hate you guys, and they're going to attack. It's just a matter of when. It's been a long time since there's been a English-French war, so that could happen at any minute. So who are you rooting for?
Well, it's Le Pen, who's the far-right candidate, and there's Macron, who hasn't really been great friends with us. But I don't know whether you've seen the photograph that has come out of President Macron, and I've never. It's probably the hairiest man I think I've ever seen in my life. It's It looks like it's like Tom. It's like 5 Tom Sellecks on one chest. There's this guy. I don't know if you've seen it,
but he's a small man. He's a little guy.
Yeah. Hey, far too much hair for a small man, really. Wow. And you see, he's got the shirt open, and it's just like, honestly, you wouldn't believe it. It's almost like, it looks like Tom Jones in 1978 playing Vegas, playing Caesar's Palace. That's it. The only thing missing is like a big crucifix around his neck. You know, hairy arm, big. So I don't know whether, and they were discussing it on a TV show. Oh, he looks great, doesn't he? He is a very hairy man. So if the French go for hairy men, which I assume maybe that's what's going to win it for him, that was what they've done. But then again, he might have done the situation where he's stuck a chest wig on there because it's almost too hairy. So if you have a look at Macron chest, I'm sure it'd be very easy to find. It's something you won't be able to unsee for a couple of days. So if you're prepared to have a look, that's the way to win an election, my friend. That is what you've got to do. Chest hair, just coming out all over the place. I think it's even out. There's so much chest hair there. I think it's even coming out of the bottom of his cuffs. That's how much chest hair. That's unbelievable.
That's amazing. Now, people won't believe it when I say this, but you and I have never seen each other naked.
No, it's true. No, we kept it that way for a long time.
But I have what I would consider to be a tasteful and appropriate amount of chest hair in the center of my chest. It would be the what would that be? The male form of the version of cleavage or whatever. But
the male cleavage.
Yeah, the center of my chest. I have some chest hair. I have hair on my arms. I have hair other places, not on my head, of course. But an appropriate amount. What about you? Are you a hairy man?
No, not at all. I don't even have hardly any hair on my legs. I have to pretend when people see me in shorts, I have to pretend I'm a professional cyclist because they can't understand how few hairs I have on my legs. Or on my arms, there's hardly anything at all. So no, I'm not a terribly hirsute man. So I think you probably realised that me talking about Macron is pure jealousy, looking at what's going on there. He's got mine, he's got yours, he's probably got half of your country's chest hair, all on that French chest there.
All right, now, with the Queen, we're at the Platinum Jubilee level, which I believe means she wins a free game. And
yes, she does.
Platinum Jubilee, 75 years in power, is that right?
No, 70 years. 1950. 1952. See, it's a tricky one, you see, because they celebrated this a few months ago, and it was, today was, it's different. For her, it's going to be a tricky time because whereas the most of the country, today was the day she became queen. Whereas really, you could look at it and go, well, that's the day my dad died. You know what I mean? So you can look at it both ways. Instead of looking, what a wonderful day. Well, actually, it probably wasn't such a wonderful day.
Sure.
So 70 years. So there's 2 anniversaries. There's the coronation, which then happened the next year, which was in the summer of 1953. So that's next year will be the 70th anniversary of her being crowned, which if you've seen the crown, you'd see the whole thing on there. And this year is the anniversary. So we've got 70 years of the crown. Although, bless her, doesn't seem to be that well at the moment. She hasn't appeared for the Easter service, which she does every year. But then again, this is a woman that's 94, 95 years old now. So, that's what we got planned for the summer. So hopefully she'll, you know what I'm saying?
I do.
Everything's going to be fine for the summer.
We have been talking about this for decades. And we always come back to the same thing. When will Chuck get the hat? And those days, that day could be coming. We don't know.
Well, put it this way, he might be in the cloakroom with a hat stand. That's all I can say.
I understand.
So we don't know, but don't forget, the Buckingham Palace cloakroom is a very large room, than most other people's. So it could be 10 years. It could be one. We don't know. But we don't know when Chuck's going to get the hat. I remember the first time you actually asked me this, when's Chuck going to get the hat? I think this was 30 years ago.
Yeah, I think
this is the 30th anniversary of you asking, when's Chuck going to get the hat? Yeah. So it's a very, very exciting anniversary for us as well.
And I like the Queen very much. I don't want her to pass, obviously, but if you're...
Good. Well, it's very nice of you.
And if you're Charles, I think you wake up most days going, is today the day? I don't know.
Yeah. Watching the 1953 coronation thinking, that could be my gig. I can actually do the place the crown. He's probably been rehearsing for 30, 40 years. Right. So, you know what? Don't screw it up, Charles.
Yeah, by the way, when he is king, are you in favor of Camilla being called queen?
Yeah, I don't have a problem with that. I mean, he's been with her a long time. Originally, that wasn't going to be the case. She couldn't be Queen Camilla, but now she can be Queen Camilla. And the other thing is that when he does become king, that puts me 7,567th in line to be the next king myself.
That's true.
It's all very exciting stuff.
Yeah,
obviously we wish the Queen well.
And it does get confusing as far as the line of succession goes. But there was talk for quite some time, and you'll remember this, Paul, that because she probably wouldn't be considered queen, that Queen Latifah would actually be named queen. But nobody's talking about that anymore, I guess, huh?
Yeah, not really. There's probably more chance of Queen Latifah becoming the queen than Prince Harry becoming the king. Let's put it that way. There's probably more chance that Queen Latifah will wear the hat than Harry and Meghan. To be honest with you. Do you know what I mean? Yeah.
All right. Well, look, there's a lot of news in America, but I'll just tell you two quick stories. One is Nicolas Cage is considering starring in a musical. Good idea?
I don't know. What does he sing like? Does he just shout and wail overact? Can you oversing?
It would be the most intense musical ever, wouldn't it? He'd just be yelling.
Yeah. And if you're sitting in the front row, whatever you do, just don't catch his eye. Just don't catch his eye. Look the other way. Can you imagine if Nicolas Cage is on stage doing a musical and he's singing and he looks right at you? You would not know where to look, would you? You'd be all over thinking, oh my goodness me, please. Far, far too intense. What do we know? So is this likely then? This is going to happen? This is the scariest thing I've heard all year.
Yeah, it is scary. It's quite frightening. I think it's a possibility. Broadway in New York is not what it once was, in that there's a lot of things that never would have been a Broadway play that are now. So, you and I have pitched our own musical many, many times. It's an international sensation.
This is not Hello, Dolly that he's going to be in. Is that right? So we can pretty much we can write, 42nd Street ain't going to be that. Okay. What about Cats? Can you imagine him in Cats?
That would be fantastic. You know, Cats is the only Broadway play, only theatrical presentation I've ever walked out of. Matter of fact, I can't think of another entertainment thing that I ever walked out of. I walked out of Cats.
I never actually even walked into Cats because that means you've got one on ahead of me. The only film, I actually went to a film premiere, and this was one of the only films I've walked out of. And the thing, it was a damn premiere. And I went to the party afterwards because it was so hilarious. I couldn't stand the film. And it was a Steven Seagal film. I don't know whether I've mentioned this before. And what was it called? Under Siege or something ridiculous?
Under Siege, exactly.
And he goes No, actually, no. It may not be that. It was that's probably more famous. It was where he saved. I think it was like a oil rig. He'd gone in, and Michael Caine played. Was the worst American accent ever with this dyed black hair. Is that right?
Yeah,
is that the one? He was so bad, so bad. And I always knock people from your country for doing bad English accents, and for that, Michael Caine in that film.
You know, now that I think about it, that's not Under Siege was a different movie.
Yeah.
What do you think?
That was Erica Eleniak was in that. Wasn't
she was in
that one, Under Siege?
Yeah, she was.
Yeah, I remember. This is called On Deadly Ground.
Yes.
And not only that, it was an environmental action adventure film, an environmental it sounds like a winner already. Can you imagine pitching that? Yeah, I'm an environmentalist. I don't take any shit from anybody. I kill them with a piece of tofu. It's just the worst. It's the worst film you've ever seen. Purely for for the great Michael Caine. That Michael Caine is always, he's a national treasure. Of course he is, and he's done some great movies over the years. But accents was never his strong point. And he talks about, he goes, yeah, well, and when he did the Cider House Rules, again, there was another really bad accent.
Yep.
And he talks about, well, I spent many years, didn't I, trying to get it right. It's like, well, it's terrible. But nobody actually dared tell him that's the worst accent I've ever heard because it was Michael Caine. But I'll tell him.
By the way, that's a great way to bring this full circle. Charles Barkley from an NBA playoff time here, and Charles Barkley is an absolute legend, and he's a big TV star here now. Very funny, very entertaining guy, and a very honest guy. Now, you had me do a little bit of an Irish speech thing. I want to hear your accent and impression of Charles Barkley. Charles Barkley has a catchphrase, and it goes like this.
Yeah.
That's terrible. That's terrible. And by the way, that accent I just gave you, or that impression, worst ever. That's terrible. So let me hear you say that's terrible.
That's terrible. This is the most ridiculous. It's his catchphrase. The people go, hey, that's terrible.
Yeah.
What? Why does he do that?
I don't know. And you know what? He may not even do it. I was just trying to get you to say it. So, all right, my friend.
Terrible.
Yeah, you keep working on it, and
no, I'll keep working on it.
Best of luck to you.
Hi, now, Brian Kai.
Best of luck to you on Talk Sport with the Spurs Football Club. And
Tottenham Hotspur Spurs. Yeah.
Yes, and also, of course, on GB News, which you can get on like I have as well. And you can see Paul on what amounts to their video podcasts. So, thank you, buddy. I appreciate you coming on.
Always a pleasure. Thanks for asking me. Have a lovely time.
Now I'm live from my office. It's my friend David Hochberg from Team Hochberg. And David, I think you and I bonded initially outside of our swarthy good looks and our Old Spice cologne over the fact that we both didn't serve but had nothing but respect for those who did serve. And we did a lot of veteran stuff together. And I tell people all the time, I've always been impressed with how much you give back. So there's a housing component to this. Talk about the advantage to being a vet.
Yeah, well, I think it was not to correct you on your show, but I think it was a bathing suit shoot that you and I were doing together. Just to again, I don't want to correct you during your podcast.
That's probably right. I'll put the picture here so I remind myself.
If you're 30 to 50% service connected disabled, you get $2,500 off your assessed value. If you're 50 to 69.9% service connected disabled, you get $5,000 off your assessed value. And if you're 70 or greater service connected disabled, and what that means is you have to be rated by the VA. Okay, in what percentage disabled you are, you don't pay any real estate taxes. And
it's huge.
We're one of the few lenders in the United States that will do a cash out refinance on VA loans if you have a 680.
And you guys do the work, and that's always the helpful thing because people get overwhelmed and a little glassy-eyed when it comes to finances, especially their home. And I'm telling you now, you pick up the phone, you call 855-56-DAVID or go to 56david.com. They'll tell you what they need from you, but you have to take that first step, and they will do the heavy lifting. Thank you, David.
Thanks, buddy.
Well, I told you it was worth it. Now take a break, give yourself a chance to get a snack and maybe a refreshment after that lengthy yet entertaining Paul Coyte interview. And, of course, all of our episodes are at CochranShow.com and most every place you get your podcasts. They're all archived there as well. All right, so charity. We always mention charities on this podcast. I've been hammering home one again and again and again because it's a comprehensive list of vetted charities that are helping out the people under siege in Ukraine. And it's ukrainewar.carrd.co. It's in the show notes again, but ukrainewar.carrd.co. A list of vetted charities and ways for you to help if you're so inclined and if you can, and it's appreciated because we all need to step up. All right, so before we go, as always, we thank Ross Cochran. Couldn't happen without Ross Cochran. And I thank him for having great grandkids. Because Abigail, by the way, for those of you who listen to me on the radio all those years, Abigail is 6. 6+. Like she's coming up on 6.5 soon. And Isaac will be 3. I mean, a lot of you may have already jumped to the conclusion that makes me old, and you wouldn't be wrong. But boy, am I blessed. So I hope you have a great day, a great week ahead, wherever and whenever you're listening to this. Know how much I appreciate it. Drop me a line at thecochronshow@gmail.com. We'll see you next time when we do it again. This is Live from my office.
30 years plus on the airwaves. You have turned your dial to me. Now you're tuned into my podcast. It's Live from my office, Steve. From Ithaca, New York to Carolina South, W. Cochran Steve. From Minneapolis and then Chicago twice, top-rated shows achieved. Sit back, relax, and now listen to my show. When or wherever you are, 'cause you're on the go. A-list celebs with some laughs and great info. Live from my office, the Steve Cochran Podcast Show. Yeah, yeah, yeah. No better place to be. Yeah, yeah, yeah. Subscribe and like for free. Yeah, yeah, yeah. Live from my office, Steve. So glad you're with me. It's Live from my office, Steve.
Thank you for listening to Live from my office, a service of Monkey Run Productions. All rights reserved. The podcast is hosted by Steve Cochran, and it's mixed, edited, and produced by me, Ross Cochran. Steve is available for corporate speaking gigs. He would love to MC your event, and occasionally, he's funny. Thank you for listening. Head to cochranshow.com for more.